Formula 1 returned to the place where it was born last weekend with the 2023 British GP, and the event concluded successfully as a weekend full of surprises and dramas that was sufficient enough to give a nail-biting end. The current championship leader, Max Verstappen, was the clear favourite to win this race, as usual with his current form. However, the British GP is famous as a cursed event for the Red Bull team, as they recorded less victories at Silverstone. However, Verstappen was able to end that curse in style during the 2023 edition, extending his winning streak up to 6. However, the attention was totally grabbed by Norris, Piastri and Albon, as they added a huge surprise to the weekend. So, through this video, we are going to discuss how the race at Silverstone unfolded in detail. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. The qualifying session started with some kind of slippery track conditions after some rain, and drivers who started the session later had an advantage over the ones who started first. Q1 was red flagged after a mechanical failure of Magnussen's Haas Challenger that resulted to be parked on the track. Continuing his bad luck further, Perez was unable to break into Q2 again at Silverstone. Alongside with the Mexican, Tsunoda, Zhou, De Vries and Magnussen were knocked out at the end of Q1. In Q2, both the McLaren drivers and Albon heated up the session with some quick lap times, which were strong enough for an easy Q3. However, Albon's teammate, Sargent, was unable to replicate the same success in an identical Williams Challenger and was knocked out alongside with Hülkenberg, Stroll, Ocon and Bottas. After a close battle, Verstappen was able to beat Norris by a very slim margin into Q3, and both were closely followed by Piastri. Behind the McLaren duo, Ferrari drivers Leclerc and Sainz reserved their slots in the starting grid. Then Russell and Hamilton set the best lap times respectively. Albon was on P8 ahead of the two-time world champion Fernando Alonso. The Alpine appearance in Q3, Gasly recorded the slowest time of the session. After the qualifying, Bottas was demoted from P15 to P20 in the starting grid as punishment for parking his car on the track in Q1 without a properly explained issue, and also with the reason that the team failed to provide a sufficient fuel sample. After some unexpected outcomes during the qualifying, a completely different starting grid was seen at Silverstone compared to the previous races of the season. Even though the first 2 days of the race weekend were affected by rain to a certain extent, a clear, brighter sky was seen prior to the race, creating better conditions for racing. When the tyre blankets came off, it can be observed that the medium rubber were the choice of the majority of the drivers for the first stint, except Russell, Ocon, Tsunoda and De Vries, who chose softs, and Hülkenberg and Bottas that opted for hards. After showing some good pace throughout the weekend, the two McLaren drivers Norris and Piastri were behind the pole sitter Max Verstappen, being a real threat for the championship leader to maintain his winning streak. Norris had a good start and was able to beat the pole sitter when they reached turn 1. It was a little bit of a tough situation for Verstappen, as he was sandwiched between two McLaren cars over the next few corners. But Verstappen followed the British driver throughout the first 2 laps and was able to beat him with the help of DRS. A few yards behind the top 2, Russell and Sainz were on a wheel-to-wheel battle for P4 and at one point were lucky to save their challengers from a very close contact. Former McLaren teammates Alonso and Hamilton started their battle as usual, and after some close moves, Hamilton was able to beat Alonso for P8 on lap 7, replicating the overtake of Verstappen. Hülkenberg was the first to enter the pit lane, but that move was not for a tyre change. He wanted a new nose for his car as he softly tapped Perez's Challenger when they were battling for P13. At the start of lap number 10, Ocon entered the pit lane with some kind of issue in his Alpine Challenger, and his race engineers decided to retire him immediately after that. Then darker clouds started to appear on the top of the Silverstone sky, and teams started to give their warnings to their drivers. However, the rain didn't arrive as expected, and drivers continued their battles with their full speeds. Verstappen was in a close fight with Norris, and 2 lap times were deleted for exceeding the track limits, pushing him towards an edge of a possible penalty for exceeding track limits. As he did over the last few races, Sergio Perez was in another great recovery drive and was able to show an improvement of 5 spots at the end of 17 laps. Outside of Hülkenberg's sudden pit entry, Leclerc was the first driver to enter the pits for a tyre change. He was pitted with a set of hard rubber in place of the mediums that he was running. 10 laps later, Sainz decided to follow the same strategy as Leclerc, being the second driver to pit for a new set of rubber. Then Russell opted to run on mediums in his second stint, and Perez decided to gamble the remaining part of the race with a soft tyre set. Magnussen immediately parked his car by the side of the track as flames were rising from his broken Haas Challenger, so the race control reacted immediately by deploying a safety car on lap 34. With that advantage, Verstappen, Hamilton and Alonso entered the pit lane, switching to a soft set of tyres. But Norris decided to switch hard, hinting for a one-stop strategy. 4 laps later, green flags were waved, signalling the race restart, and Verstappen was clever enough to create a considerable gap with Norris and Hamilton, who were running behind him, with the help of soft rubber. Stroll and Gasly went wheel to wheel several times in their fight for the 11th position, and Stewards didn't take any action against Stroll's initial bold pass on Gasly. The pair came in contact again when they were battling for the last point offering position with Sainz, and this time, the Stewards handed over a 5-second penalty to Stroll for being the cause behind the collision. This time, Gasly was totally unlucky and his suspension was damaged, resulting in a double retirement for the French racing outfit. At the same time, Perez continued his high-speed recovery till the end of the race and made his final move against Alonso, who was running in 6th position. Finally, Verstappen was able to see the checkered flag, extending his winning streak up to 6, and it was the 11th consecutive win for the Red Bull team in the 2023 season. Behind him, Norris and Hamilton were able to celebrate their homecoming in style with podium finishes. Piastri was the 4th driver to cross the line, and it was his best finish in F1 after enjoying some continuous bad efforts at the first part of the F1 season. Behind the rookie Australian, Russell, Perez and Alonso crossed the line respectively, completing the spots up to the 7th in the final standings. Other than McLaren, Williams was the other team that added a big surprise to the weekend, and Albon was able to deliver a memorable P8 for the Grove-based racing outfit in its 800th Grand Prix, after some nail-biting moments with the Ferrari duo Leclerc and Sainz. Sargent, who was on the other Williams Challenger, missed the point-scoring opportunity by a slim margin of 4 seconds. That's how the race in Great Britain unfolded, and many teams showed some unexpected levels of improvement after the upgrades that were introduced ahead of the race in Silverstone. McLaren and Williams were the teams that showed the greatest improvement, and at the same time, both Ferrari and Aston Martin showed a considerable decline with the lack of sufficient pace to defend the challenge from rival challengers. Do you think that both McLaren and Williams are able to continue the race pace that they showed at Silverstone in the next race at Unforgettable? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. See you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.